I think we live in the most exciting time in computing since the 1940s.
I think we're all actually already using AI in our jobs, even if we don't realize it. And here's why. If you've ever used autocomplete on an email, you've used AI. If you've used autocorrect in that memo, you've used AI. If you've been driving for work and used an app that sends you the fastest route, you're probably using a form of AI.
AI is here to amplify what we do, not replace us.
Welcome to the Four Futures of AI. I'm Francis Rose. Across the federal government and state capitals, a single profound question is echoing. Will government shape AI's future, or will AI shape the government? To answer that, this four-part series brings to life a visionary framework developed by EY. They mapped out four distinct scenarios for the year 2030 to help public officials anticipate the coming waves of change. The desired outcome of this exercise isn't to predict the future perfectly with a crystal ball. It's about preparation and imagination. By exploring these futures, government leaders can build resilient strategies today to ensure they actively steer artificial intelligence toward the public good rather than just passively reacting to it. Over this four-part series, we're exploring four distinct scenarios for the year 2030. We'll look at transform, where AI solves our biggest scientific problems. We'll look at constraint, where society slams on the brakes because of safety fears. We'll look at collapse, where a few powerful players control the entire landscape. But we begin with the future that looks most like today, growth. This isn't science fiction. It isn't robots taking over. It's the steady, sometimes messy work of integrating new tools into old systems to fix the things that are broken right now. It's the evolution of efficiency.
The growth scenario is really the workhorse scenario. So it's the scenario that is just incrementally better. There's nothing transformative. There's nothing disruptive. It's largely business as usual. You know, some people look at some of the foundational things that are required for growth: data strategy, data governance, AI governance, building those types of systems as boring, but they're absolutely fundamental to enabling some of the downstream flashy magic that we think of when we think of really sophisticated AI systems.
I think a lot of the chaos that we perceive over the last few years was newness. And as that newness wears off and we start to get into our steady state, that persistence of just continued innovation and interest and use represents growth.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is it's basically what's been happening up till now, right? So it's like the same sorts of slow progress that we've seen where AI is, being incorporated into more tools, more processes, more areas of our life, and that just kind of continues.
We love the idea of freeing up our folks to be more creative and more impactful, leaning into their expertise. And so anything we can do to offload the drudgery and the kind of banal routine stuff. Predictive maintenance is a great example. I mean, developing models and figuring out when things are likely to fail based on prior data is a really strong point for machine learning and AI. We have a long history with that. Anything more we can do where we're not firefighting, but getting ahead of things and using our time even more efficiently than we have been.
10% of your organization is going to be, those are the ones that are so excited about the technology and they're using it and they're ready for the next technology and they're moving forward with it. And you need to let them do that. Spending 80% of your energy on that 10% is a waste of your time. They know more than you do. They are working harder than you are to try and learn this technology. You have more to gain from learning from them than you do trying to hamper and stop them from innovating. Then you've got your bottom 10%. And these are the folks that have no interest of adopting new technology. They are, whether it's getting close to retirement or they are just, for some reason, have that mindset that is just lock solid, not going to move. You spending 80% of your time trying to cajole that 10% to get on the technology and use it and be amazing at it is not the best use of your time either. Meanwhile, there's another 80% of your organization, and they're the ones that never get the amount of time and energy that they deserve in the innovation. And that is what we focused on at DHS.
But you can imagine if you're a caseworker and you're helping someone get access to SNAP benefits, you didn't get into that job because you wanted to take a bunch of paper and data inputs and then put it into another document. There are dozens of processes like this in government that are highly manual, that are not automated, that are things that are honestly better done by computers. For example, this year, we deployed Gemini out to a good percentage of the workforce. I think at the moment, we have around 12,000 monthly active users across 59 different agencies. And, using AI to do everything from summarization to serving as a research assistant to, code generation to serving as co-pilots.
Yeah, I think we're seeing them everywhere, right? I mean, even just tools that are helping you write responses to emails, tools that are helping you gather data, put together a document, put together a briefing within seconds. That used to take hours, right? Or days with someone sitting at a blank screen.
My grandmother was a federal employee for 30 years, and most of that time she was a typist, as were hundreds of thousands of other, for the most part, women, but hundreds of thousands of other federal employees. That's not a job category that exists today. So we've seen incredible transformation in the federal workforce over the last 50 years, right? Much more than folks would have predicted, to the point that the federal workforce, I'll say in January of this year, was essentially the same size as it was when my grandmother was working for the federal government in the 1960s, despite the fact that the country is almost twice the size, because we've deployed technology to make the federal government much more efficient. So I think that will continue. I don't see an overall, setting aside this moment we're in with the Trump administration, I don't see AI tools necessarily reducing the size of the federal workforce, but absolutely over time, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, maybe on a faster timeline, job categories will change and new jobs and new roles will emerge. Roles that I hope will be at a higher, more human level and helping us to manage and deploy these AI tools responsibly and effectively.
So what we are trying to do is clean our foundation. We don't want to train our AI on what we call garbage. The outcomes of what AI produces is also going to be garbage if you don't clean your data. If your data quality is not good, anything the AI models give you are not actionable. We as leadership cannot be taking data-driven decisions based on a non-qualitative data. So we're doing a lot of groundwork. We have been doing a lot of groundwork for the last 1 year in trying to ensure the data foundation that we are setting is at most quality. And at the same time, we also want to, kind of look at, if we are using data, the source of truth is within DOT, not on some vendor's website or database or someone else's cloud.
Data management, data analytics is a whole world that I think we've done a great job tapping, but it's we have a lot further to go to support artificial intelligence?
The biggest need that we see is to bring the data together. Right now, we have a lot of departments that have data that are serving the citizens that they serve well. For instance, the Department of Disability and Aging has great data on the people that they serve with those particular issues. But what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to combine them with the Department of Health data and to be able to understand how we can better serve those people through the data that comes from both of those agencies. When we can do that, then we'll be able to design and provide the services that those people need. State government is typically fairly siloed when it comes to data. Different departments have all their data. We have to pull all that data together so that AI can access that data. If we can pull all that data together, then we can meet the citizen where they are, and we don't have to expect them to come to where we are.
For decades, we've heard about smart infrastructure, smart cities, smart this, and AI is enabling that. I think that's been a slow going for decades with pieces coming together, digital twins, sensors, you'd hear the word sensor for decades, and AI is pulling it together. There was just too much data, too much information, and AI is now a tool that can aggregate that and analyze it quickly. So I think that's the big shift, and that's almost the responsibility of government, is taking advantage of that and going from this, what are the risks? How do we attend to them once they happen? How do we react to these bad things or outages or design issues? How do we go from that and flip it around so there are no surprises? I think the bar becomes there are no surprises. Things are running smoothly. The complaints go down. It's more about I want and planning and ahead rather than this is wrong.
We're looking at multiple traffic technologies that implement AI. We recently, this past year, worked with the Austin district to implement a system that actually helps with reducing the time that it takes us to actually get third-party responders out to the roads to actually remove secondary crash opportunities or options, right? And so what we've done is we've implemented Recore. And that, what it takes is it takes data from third-party responders that actually then will give our TMCs information about cars that may be stranded on the roads that actually then can cause disruption on the roads and cause secondary crashes. We've been able to reduce the time third-party responders come out to the roads by 11 seconds, which is huge for us, right? And so what it does is it's a direct correlation to allow us to remove disruption on the roads, thereby allowing traffic to move forward in the way it should, and then also reducing the amount of secondary crashes on the roads, reducing the overall, issues and fatalities that could happen on the roads. And that, to me, is a huge public safety gain. We're also looking at how we can also leverage AI to actually meter traffic signals and make sure that they're more optimized. So when you have busy time periods, we want to make sure that traffic signals are coordinated effectively so people can actually route effectively through our roads. And so what we're doing is we're looking at where the best way is that we can implement AI to make sure that our traffic signals are aligned in the best times, that we don't cause congestion on the road needlessly.
Let's take the Department of Transportation. State has been removing, like any other states, a number of tolling stations. We can actually read vehicles while they are traveling. You don't need to put tolling and slow everything down. You can read whether it's a commercial vehicle, whether it's a trailer, whether it's a small car. And just simply based on that, you can generate, for example, the tolling information. You can use the same high-definition cameras that are installed throughout throughways to study the environment. How much snow you have, sleet you have, water you have, accidents, hazard, somebody's in distress. So you can use all those without invading privacy. You can use those information to help people. So sending somebody who may be in distress parked on a shoulder with the light blinking, but that will require us to study the traffic pattern. what kind of response you want to send. If obviously it's a commercial truck with the oil and gas and chemicals, it's a different response than an individual with a small sedan. So we use some of these information embedded in our systems to help public. So from there to taking our meetings and calendars and summarizing, as you can imagine, we pass a lot of laws. Even the process of creating, the bills and analyzing and taking a look at the precedents and the impact of such things, and then passing those things and understanding the impact requires substantial amount of people working together, processing, and you can just accelerate and streamline some of those things using some of the AI tools. So we have approximately 24 concrete applications which our executive agency used to serve public. Almost all scenarios, I cannot think of anything, is within the policy. So we'll talk about our policy in a minute, but most of these tools are used for public benefit without crossing the line in terms of privacy and safety.
There was one municipality that was struggling with parking enforcement. They couldn't hire enough folks on the ground. They started using all of the infrastructure that they already had built, so cameras across the city, and implemented an AI algorithm, and they had 100% coverage. And after the municipality, got parking under control and started to see a real benefit there, they actually came back and said, we're struggling with waste pickup. And so could we use these same images and AI laid over some of these visuals to do better at our waste pickup? And all of a sudden they went from, a regimented schedule like we typically see. They actually do it on demand. Folks put it out on the curb and it's picked up significantly faster, and it's changed the way that they provide public services. So I think the more we can innovate and think about what data is available to us, there's going to be a lot of value in the public sector.
Defense and intelligence agencies are large organizations just like any other. They have many administrative requirements that need to be performed, budgeting processes, sending emails, taking meetings, writing reports, and many of the same tools that were developed for commercial organizations can support these special customers.
I think what AI is going to allow us to do in this space is it's going to get to all that faster. So when you talk about prompt engineering and putting it in there, the AI is going to go out and search for those sources in whatever data that you're looking at, and it's going to quickly give you those results back that might be, instead of 110 million, you're talking about maybe 50 sources. So it gets very granular and very finite rather quickly based on what you're looking for. And I think that's what it does to us, which is important. So even though data is more in volume, the AI, if done properly and prompting properly, will allow you to actually get in with very granular detail on what you really need. And I think what it'll do in the future as well is the AI will begin to learn you, the area that you're operating in, the questions that you're asking on a continuous basis, the sources that you're using. And that will further refine and refine and refine so that when you ask a question now, it's giving you much more refined and synthesized answers back, which of course cuts down time. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for speed, you're looking for efficiency. So I think although more data is going to happen, I do think that AI is going to be able to triage that much more quickly and give you the results that are more refined.
I think from an analytics standpoint, I mean, the formal analytics standpoint that we talk about that results in the president's daily brief, this is back to it buys more time for the analyst to actually apply their expertise as opposed to search through data. And we've seen kind of a shift from, it used to be hours of looking through the data sets to spend an hour, like coming up with your position. That's flipped now, right? It takes an hour to get all of the sources that you think are pertinent and be comfortable with that. And then you actually get to spend 7 hours thinking about and representing your particular area of expertise. That strikes me as fundamentally good. There is clearly, like, if you think about the SUS systems on Navy ships, right? Like, stuff is coming at you. There's no way a person can be figuring out what the intercept vector is and taking things down, right? And everybody has seen those kind of firing rapidly, right? Slewing around. So again, I'll say I don't think these are new problems that we're dealing with. And if we're smart about how we incorporate AI, what we'll do is we will give the human back more quality decision time, which they are uniquely positioned to do, for things that are not, if anything's coming at me, I need to shoot it out of the sky, right? Because those have been automated for as long as we could figure out how to do it, because a human can't actually physically respond to everything that's coming at them from that perspective. And same thing, at higher echelons. The 4-star is there, hopefully, to see what's coming around the next corner while his troops are out doing the thing that they got to get done today, right? And hopefully it's buying more time for everybody up the chain. Even the folks, small language models at the edge, who are just trying to make, this is my objective, and I didn't expect there to be 3 adversary units, over here. But I got a little bit of time to prep for that because I got an incoming warning.
We always want a human being to be in the loop in certain situations with the military. And I think people are concerned about, oh my gosh, we're going to have this super intelligence where we have these systems that are going to be off on their own, making these decisions and deploying weapons. That's not the case, but we want to make sure that we understand all of the capabilities, but also the challenges, so that we put the proper guardrails on there.
Our goal is to have a citizen experience that is fast, intuitive, and easy to consume. If we have stuff in silos, it's not going to work. If we have somebody that wants to come in and get a new driver's license online, but they also want to understand what benefits are available to me as a citizen, having that data culminated or at least accessible across agency borders is going to be very important.
We're finding use cases popping up all over the state. If I were going to think about where they're mostly impacting us, there's kind of in 3 categories. The first is what we call no wrong door. And it is essentially the fact that citizens are finding that they can access Tennessee services easier because of AI. And we're going that direction to make it simpler for citizens to access services. Think of our website as an example. The Tennessee website has 40+ agencies that all have their web page on our website. And if you know what you're doing, you can get there. But if you don't know what you're doing, it's a trial and error thing. What if we had a website where it came up and it just simply said, what do you want? And you talk to it, or you type it in, and it gives you everything you need.
I think one of the great things about technology, and particularly technologies like AI, is the preferred term I have is that they can have a democratizing effect. No longer do you have to have access to the resources of the city to have access to that same level of information. No longer do you have to have the friend that's the realtor that you can call up to ask, what are the questions I need to ask when I'm looking at buying a house? We all can have access to those type of information, and it may not be as good as having a full realtor or a full accountant or a full attorney. Those roles are still going to be very important, but we know in many of these professional services, there's a gap.
So for example, in Minnesota, they have a large Somali population. And so they want to take whether it's DMV documents and bring those into Somali so that population could understand it. Well, they used to leverage a lot of external contractors to do that work. And they have a brilliant leader there, a man named Adam Taha, who said, you know what, I'm going to try to use this with ChatGPT. And so he started using ChatGPT to help do the first pass of translation and was reviewing the output and said, this is actually fantastic. And so was able to do that. And so ultimately created a whole centralized office of translation where I think he has less than 5 people, and he is saving the state more than $100,000 a month by using chat tools like ChatGPT to be able to translate these government documents.
My philosophy on this is first demystify the technology, right? Approach it in a way that it can be understood. But the most important is that in the end, this has to be a tool to make our citizens' lives better. It has to reflect back to things that they actually care about. And that's why it's so important to evolve the debate on AI into what we want AI to do. What problems do we want it to solve? And who is going to solve them? And that the people who are solving them reflects the diversity and trust that is needed for Americans to believe in the technology.
The call to action right now is to be informed. In order to help define what the future is going to be, whether that be for a constituent group or for a market, and it will vary across different areas based on people's comfort level and engagement, is in order to be an active part of the conversation, you have to understand what the technology is doing and what the potential outcomes are. And those potential outcomes for each market may vary as well. They may be more constrained or broader there too. So without a universal truth that we can all point to in plain English that we all agree to the meaning of, we all really need to stay informed on what's happening in the market and how the applications are defining outcomes so that we can be part of the conversation as it's happening. I think we don't want this to happen to us. We want it to be an informed government, and we want to continue to ensure that the citizens are being served by the applications that are being developed, both by the government and by private industry. And that just requires education and consistent conversation.
The growth scenario feels comfortable. It feels safe. It's the government we know, just a little bit faster and a little bit smarter. But as we've heard today, slow and steady might not be enough. The energy demands are climbing, the adversaries are sprinting, and the technology itself isn't waiting for our procurement cycles to catch up. If we just aim for efficiency, we might miss the revolution entirely. Because what happens when the curve doesn't just go up gradually? What happens when it goes vertical? Next time, we leave the safety of incremental growth behind and stare straight into the sun, the future of transform.
The FAA's mission is clear: set the global standard for safety while modernizing at full throttle. EY helps make that possible by strengthening the operational backbone where safety, data, workflows, compliance, and mission decisions come together. We modernize the systems behind the systems so technology strengthens, not disrupts, America's national airspace system. From router to runway, we optimize NAS performance, accelerate certification, embed zero-trust cybersecurity, and empower FAA's workforce with the best tools and training. The result? Zero turbulence in modernization, clearer decisions, a safer, future-ready airspace. EY, confidence in motion, supporting the FAA mission from the inside out.